Griffith began to put up sets for a farm, modelled on his old home, though situated in New England. Griffith had bought an old warhorse of a play for a record amount called Way Down East. Even his closest colleagues thought he'd made a great mistake. But the project was of great importance to him, and he rehearsed it intensively.
Everything happened in rehearsals. He never did anything without weeks of rehearsals. It was important. Way Down East, 8 weeks, from early morning to late at night. Every scene, it was timed. The cameraman knew how long the insert should be, how close. Everything was ready when we went before the cameras.
This rare piece of film shows one of these rehearsals. Griffith often acted out what he wanted his players to do, and here he shows Vivia Ogden how the gossip should behave. The gossip tells the squire that the girl he employs has had an illegitimate child. In one of the most famous scenes of melodrama, he orders the girl out into the snow. Lillian Gish showed true heroism in the face of a real blizzard.
Griffith saw the icicles forming and how heavy and snowbound my face was, all plastered with snow as it melted. He wanted Billy to put it on film, and he yelled to get that face, and Billy said, "I will if the oil in the camera hasn't frozen."
The camera was fitted with an acetylene heater, since Bitzer had to cope with weeks of sub-zero temperatures. This was just one of the problems they had to solve in filming the ice floe scene, which would become one of the best remembered sequences in film history. The girl collapses onto the frozen river. Her lover, Richard Barthelmess, sees the ice break up and the girl heading for the falls. A location was chosen above the Hartford Dam near White River Junction, Vermont. However much he hated the cold, Griffith had no choice. The company spent weeks working on the ice. Men had to saw up the ice, and when that didn't work, they blew it loose with dynamite. Sometimes the current was too strong, and the ice was swept beyond the bridge. Dorothy Gish came up to watch her sister's performance. Day after day at this Hartford location, Lillian Gish was obliged to lie on an ice floe in a thin dress. The scene was not even part of the original play. Griffith was probably inspired by a scene in Uncle Tom's Cabin, Eliza's pursuit across the frozen river. Richard Barthelmess, encumbered by this raccoon coat, did many of the stunts himself, taking frequent drenchings. The cameramen stood on property ice floes made of wood. Lillian Gish often had to lie on real ones, trailing her hand in the water. Her ordeal became more than she could stand.
She just said she couldn't take any more of it, that's all. She was completely frozen. She says, "I'm chilled all through. I don't know as I'll live. I'll have pneumonia," she says.
On one of the few occasions in her career, Lillian Gish agreed to a double, and then Griffith was equally demanding of her.
I was certainly all set, and they were starting to take pictures, and he come back to check. "Oh, no, that's wrong, all wrong." He says, "All wrong." I remember him hearing and yelling, "All wrong. Face the other way." Got to face it the way the ice was coming. So, had to do it all over again. Get right on the other side. And then I was getting disgusted with him. I thought he was crazy and didn't know what he wanted himself.
Catherine Johnston was a Vermont girl, used to harsh conditions, but trailing her hand in the water like Lillian Gish proved too much.
Just a few minutes of that would practically freeze your hand off. After you took it out, you'd get chilblains, you know. It was horrible. I'd get in and get it warmed up a little bit, and when it started to come through, it would ache and hurt terribly. I can still feel it.
Catherine Johnston spent just one memorable day on the picture. Lillian Gish had to spend day after day under freezing ice until Griffith was satisfied. Griffith returned to Mamaroneck while his assistant, Elmer Clifton, took charge of the crew for the final stage. The great ice break for which men were on hand day and night. At the first signs of the thaw, cameras were rushed into position. When the double for Barthelmess thought a stunt too dangerous, Elmer Clifton doubled the double. At the Hartford Dam, schoolchildren gathered to watch the rescue.
We see the guy come in with his arms outstretched, try to rescue her. Well, that was really very exciting to see, but he didn't rescue her. She went over the dam. Some of the girls started crying. I remember that. Says, oh, there she goes, there she goes. They started to cry. Because us boys didn't cry. We didn't know what to make of it, to tell you the truth.
The company had been trying out dummies for the long shots.
At that time, we had no way of knowing if they were dummies or not. And it was a long while afterwards before we come to that it was dummies.
Griffith rejected the dummies and used a more ingenious ploy. During the summer, he went to Farmington, Connecticut, and using wooden ice floes and a mill race similar to this, he restaged the rescue with far less risk to the actors. Lillian Gish could now trail her hair in the water, and shots of a full-size waterfall completed the illusion. Way Down East opened. Its great ice flow sequence astonished the public. All those patient weeks on the ice were now paying off. The ice flow sequence ensured that though Way Down East may have cost more than any film Griffith had made, it was a box office triumph. He had confounded his critics and produced another masterpiece. From cold celluloid, Griffith transferred warm emotion. As Chaplin had put it, he was the teacher of us all.